Wait, so how long does it take? What's up, guys? I am Cherie Lynette from the Homeschool Lounge, and today we are going to be talking about how long does homeschooling really take? So, when I first started homeschooling, I had the brilliant idea of trying to keep up with traditional schooling. I had been a teacher before, and so I will just say that I was programmed to believe that school had to last an entire 8 hours a day. And so I started off my homeschooling journey with two 4 year olds, my son and my niece, and then my 2 year old daughter who loved to sit in and do school with us, and attempting to do school with them for 8 hours. So, as you can imagine, our first few months of homeschooling were not pleasant. It was very stressful. Um, I think I don't know who I was driving more crazy, the kids or myself. It's probably just completely equal because it was just way too long. It was just way too long for little kids to have to sit still and try to learn. Even though I was trying to make it fun, even though it wasn't like just like sitting at a desk all day, I was doing games and activities and I was trying to teach every subject under the sun. It didn't matter. It was too much. It was too long. It exhausted me and it sure exhausted them. So thankfully, I figured out pretty quickly that it wasn't working and I cut our homeschooling time down tremendously. So let me start off by saying homeschooling, anything dealing with children or homeschooling, it is never one size fits all. Like I'm going to tell you about like a recommendation of how long homeschooling should be, but I don't want you to take this as Bible, as like, oh, Cherie said that this is how long homeschooling has to be, so my kids should be going for this long. Like, no, like once again, like homeschooling is a personalized experience for you and your family, and you have to do what works for you and your family. That could be literally homeschooling for 30 minutes in the morning and then 30 minutes in the evening or whatever. You can break it up, you can do it all together. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to give you like a reference on about how much time a child will actually sit still and be attentive. So I also want you to think of like when you're at work, if you've ever had a job where even if you kind of liked your job a little bit, like you're still looking at the clock and you're counting down the hours of like when you're going to go home. Because being at work for 8 hours, I know me, I was okay in the mornings. Once we came back from lunch, it was countdown. I mean, I feel like I just used my energy during the morning. I was productive, and then after that, like going back for like another 4 hours of work, it just I'm telling you, my productivity was not the same in the afternoon as it was in the morning. It just wasn't there. And so you're asking this from children. You're asking them to perform and be alert and be ready to receive new information for 8 hours a day. And I just think if you've ever gone to a training or anything that you didn't even really want to do for 8 hours, how did that feel? So you have to take that energy into like, okay, for one, when I am teaching my kids, let's make it fun. Let's not make it something that they already dread doing. But then you also have to let it be during a time frame where it keeps their attention, it's fun, and you're not wearing them out by just dragging it on and on. So with the littles, I'm talking about like pre-K, 4 year olds to I'd say like even up to six. In some states, kindergarten, it doesn't even start until they're like 6 years old. And like once again, this is just a reference. This is not Bible, but this is when you want school to be like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. You don't really. It shouldn't be 2, 3, 4, 5, definitely not that many hours long. Because the whole point is to introduce them to whatever concept you're introducing or you're reviewing, make it fun, and repetition is the key. You don't have to drag out the day, you just have to expose it to them every day. So, oh, I just knocked out my whole earring. So, with little kids, you want to make sure that you understand they don't sit still for long. They have a very short attention span to begin with. And let them move around, let them play, let them be interactive, but try to keep it short and sweet. Now, once again, every child is different. Like my son, when we started when he was 4, 30 minutes, and like after that I was losing him. So when I was trying to sit here and drag out these long school days, I was torturing my poor baby because it was just too long for him. But with like my daughter, she was 2. Now I know at 2 years old I couldn't get my son to like sit still for more than a minute. But my daughter sat in with us doing school every day and like played games and participated and was interactive. And at 2 years old, I wouldn't expect that. So, like I said, with every child, it's different. So, when you're teaching your children, especially the little ones, pay attention when they start getting cranky, when they start getting bored or tired. And then it's okay to walk away from it and pick it up the next day. And then for your little older kids, like I'd say, like maybe 8 to 11, maybe even 12, then you could probably go a little longer, like an hour, hour and a half, pushing it at 2 hours maybe. And it really just depends on what you're doing. So my kids right now, Mikey is 9. Oh my gosh, he just turned 9. And Ari's 7. So our homeschool usually lasts for 2 hours. But that includes like, you know, us doing our main subjects, our math, our reading. Our house alarm is going off right now, telling the kids to do their chores. And nobody's moving at all because I'm busy and they're not going to do it unless I tell them. But anyway, so yes, our school lasts for 2 hours, but that includes us doing like the main subjects. We do our math and our reading. Science, we're usually doing something like some type of experiment. They love science, so I put more time and energy into that. But we also do like art, we'll do music, so it's not necessarily, it's our learning time, but it's not just like regimented like worksheets, just doing math, just doing reading. So I would say if we just focused on like the core subjects, it probably would take us about an hour. But with everything else that I add in, we go to about 2 hours, just depending on the day. So the older your kids get, the more time that they will spend doing school, the more complicated their schoolwork gets. Up to high school, this is when kids are doing like maybe 4 or 5 hours. But there's never really a point where I've seen any homeschooling mom and I've talked to, you know, homeschooling moms whose kids are older than mine, of course, because mine are younger and I want to know like the experience with older kids as well. And I've never heard a homeschool mom with a child of any age actually have to spend 8 hours homeschooling their child. It's not necessary. So I know many of you are probably thinking, because I know when I first started homeschooling, I felt like, okay, why are they not doing school for 8 hours? Like, are the kids in traditional schooling getting more than my kids are getting because they're not learning for that long? And of course, the short answer is no, they're not. There's a lot of reasons why traditional school would take longer. So for example, when I was a teacher, I had multiple students. Now I had a smaller class because I taught resource math, which is special education math with children with learning delays. But so I would have like maybe 17 kids in my class, which is a lot for a special education class. And you have to think, each kid came to my class for 45 minutes in order to do math before they went to the next one. I had 45 minutes to try to teach like every child and give them individual attention. It's like, it's not happening. Like whoever's asking for help, you're trying to reach out to the kids who aren't asking for help, but it just takes so much more time. Whereas when you're homeschooling, your children are getting your 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 5-on-1, depending on how many kids you have, but they're getting your attention in such a small group, or like I said, 1-on-1, that it doesn't take that much time. For me to try to introduce the concept to 17 students and then walk around and make sure each student is grasping the concept, practicing, I'm answering questions, that takes a lot of time. Like it just does. So whether it's like I taught middle school, so we had class periods, but even if you're teaching elementary school and you have 30 kids in your class, that's a lot. You're trying to teach letters or numbers to 30 different kids and walk around and make sure they're all interacting and playing. It's just more time consuming. Of course, there's the little changes. Like, you don't have all the big transitions like in middle or high school where you have kids like switching classes. That takes time out of the day. And then you have if you have like a class of 30 kids of like kindergartners and you're transitioning from one subject to the next, you have to like clean up the activity or get all the kids to like refocus and reframe. So there's just a lot of extra time included in school that you don't just have to worry about at home. It's faster, it's more efficient. I mean, I literally can get through Bible, Spanish, art, math, reading. Did I say science? Like, we do all this within 2 hours. So it's, your child, believe me, is not missing out. It's just more efficient, honestly. We can still go to the park. I mean, they have recess at school that's considered in their 8-hour day, whereas if we go outside and play, that's really not considered our homeschooling day. So there's just a lot of factors where it may seem like they're getting more time or more attention or whatever at school when it's just really not the case. All right, y'all. So I hope that broke it down for you. Just a quick review. So like I said, this is just a reference. This is not Bible, but for like pre-K to like, first, maybe even second grade, you want to do like 30 minutes to an hour. After that, you're like up to an hour to 2 hours, or wherever your child is just like, you can tell they're done. And then once they're like middle school and higher, that's when you're up to like 3 to 4 hours a day of homeschooling. Okay, and once again, take it day by day. There's going to be some days where it's like halfway, where you're homeschooling an hour, and I'm like, we're just like, I'm not feeling this, they're not feeling this. Like, let's just call it, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. It's the beauty of homeschooling. It's flexible. It's easy. It's what works for you and your family and your children. Make sure you're just focusing on that and not comparing yourself to what kids are doing in traditional schools, because honestly, it's apple and oranges. You're in a whole nother world over here, and it doesn't have anything to do with that world over there. All right, guys. So once again, thank you so much for watching the Homeschool Lounge. If you want to know more about homeschooling, make sure you check out my blog, CherieLynette.com, and to follow me and watch our little homeschool journey and our family activities, make sure you're following me on Instagram at CherieLynette. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.